Welcome, one and all, to this week's Roundtable. Thank you very much for joining us.
And I want to just revisit something that you guys were chatting about before we started, and that is, where are we at in terms of this technology? Where are we at in terms of blockchain technology and crypto and the rest of it? And I think Ethereum is going to be a pivotal part of that whole thing. The biggest problem with crypto is that we've got too many tokens. They're utterly unrealistic, and it's all been about extraction. So what's happened, in my opinion, is that crypto is defining itself as a technology. I think there are many use cases for crypto. I think it's false to say that it's all a scam. If you look at crypto rails, way more efficient, way more cost effective, not only for traditional finance, but especially for AI. Crypto rails were custom built for AI, believe it or not. Whether it comes down to AI governance, because that's going to be a necessity. How do you hold AI accountable in the future? Because already AI is coming up with scenarios where it's prepared to kill people and do all sorts of shit to not be turned off. I don't know if you guys read that information over the last week or so. So that on its own, from a governance decentralized point of view, there's a function for crypto and AI. So I think what's happening right now is that we're getting rid of all the shit, which is probably 90% of it. I think the stuff that sticks around, hype definitely. I think hyperliquid is definitely one of those really, really great use cases. I think one of the fundamental problems that we have in this current evolution of crypto is buybacks. I think buybacks are a complete joke. I think people need to stop minting so many tokens, and they need to actually limit the amount of tokens that everyone gets, and there needs to be value driven into the token itself as opposed to relying on buybacks. Imagine if they'd taken all those hundreds of millions that they put into buybacks and actually incentivized builders and stakeholders in the token itself. I think we would be in a better place, and if there weren't fucking 10 trillion of the bloody things. So I know that I'm kind of verbal diarrheaing here, but I think you get my drift. I think hype, just to repeat, is definitely a candidate for all-time highs. Ethereum, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Solana go to $1,000 in the future. I mean, it's the perfect casino. It is the perfect breeding ground for the biggest scams in the industry, and that will never stop. Casinos are here to stay, and then we've got decentralized exchanges and prediction markets. I mean, Polymarket's going to launch a token. Kalshi's going to launch a token. Those things are going to run. Maybe they won't run forever, but maybe these guys will think about their tokenomics differently. Highly unlikely, but if they do, maybe we're in for value accrual in the token. But I think the future of crypto is value directed in the token, the same way that you get shares in a company and you get dividends. That's the only route that I see crypto going. And then once we get that right, then we can get back to making money.
I like that. That's a really good way of putting it. Thank you for that, Jedi. Perdu, two questions for you on the same topic. What are the narratives we should be paying attention to into the final, call them 2 weeks of February? And what are the altcoins that you are high time frame bullish on? By high time frame, I mean not just weeks and months, but in years to come.
Um, yeah, I was already discussing that in my stream this afternoon. Basically, what I'm eyeing here is that the good old trick in the book is that coins like Near that look dead at the moment. With the cloud narrative at the moment, what you see is that these type of coins always have a really good marketing team. I mean, Near is still a top 50 coin, so they have a lot of money to spend on marketing. So I'm expecting like coins like Near, Virtual, Tau to form like a narrative, like we've seen every year come back. Like we had the AI first of all with Fed, Render, and such type of coins. Then we had the AI agents with coins such as AXBT and stuff. And now I think, and then we had a small rotation to the robotic narrative with Sapien, Numeraire, and some other robotic coins that did well. Peak, for example. So I think now we're gonna see the big guys come back to the market, and coins that proved that they could stand the test of time. Coins such as Near, Tau, and Virtual that are all top 100 coins and are billion-dollar companies. I think these coins eventually, like you saw here during the bear market in June, in the bear market of 2023 over here, that we form like a small macro bottom here. I'm not saying that they're going to pump straight back to all-time high, but at least on they ride on the back of the cloud narrative, and they come back with something bullish that it can at least bump back to, let's say, 150 into that weekly EMA 13 here. So that's going to be a 50% move, and I think that's going to be the alt season of this time, which is basically a dead cat bounce from the low. But yeah, Tau looks good, Near looks good, Virtual looks good. I think all these type of coins are forming a nice bottom structure over here. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on AI, and I think it's always the most easy to read and easy to understand narrative for retail, for institutionals, and you can yeah, implement it on the real world utility as well. So I think that's a really good one. Next to that one, I'm really bullish still on DeFi, like Aave, Morpho, and that type of stuff. Especially with Apollo being one of the main investors now of Morpho, I think they can propel prices higher. So yeah, I think DeFi and AI you should definitely research a lot if you want to be on top of the next narrative.
I like that. Thank you for that, Perdu. Same question goes to you, Osbrah. I'm curious to know, what altcoins are you bullish on high time frame? What altcoins do you think will be around next cycle, and not just around, but indeed thriving and putting in new all-time highs?
I think Solana, as always. I'm always mentioning Solana, and because as Jedi said, it's the casino, and the casino never dies basically, unless something big happens. As long as we have gamblers, and goddamn, in the crypto industry we have a lot, there will be a casino, and Solana is the perfect one. So I would say Sol, hyper liquid, for the same reason I mentioned 2 weeks ago when we talked about it, because it's probably the best working product we had in crypto in the last 5 years, maybe. Maybe even since crypto has been a thing, right? Beside BTC and ETH. So I would say yes, Sol, Hype. I would like to pick one AI token, because I tend to be naive enough to think there will be one AI token that will be tied to a working project as well, but I can't name one, unfortunately, yet. And I think I don't have enough knowledge, and I don't dig enough in the trenches to have a spot one. So I would rely solely on Perdu and Jedi for that. But I would say Tao, if I had to name one, because
Yeah,
it's
I think
been
the same.
quite resilient technically, and I think it's the project that is the closest to bring some value into the space. So I would say Tao, because I lack some knowledge, and I don't know much more. I think all these tokens like Fetch, like Ocean, Ocean is dead anyway, but Fetch, Ocean, the AI tokens that we had the previous cycles are dead. So yeah, if there would be one to stay, Tao. So to sum up, BTC, of course, Sol, Hype, and Tao.
Thanks for that, Osbert. I want to move on to ETH now, and I'm just looking at the ETH BTC chart. I'm curious to know, this is an open question for our panel of Chads. What are the opinions on Ethereum? What are the opinions, low time frame, medium time frame, high time frame? Do we think that it's, a case of going to play catch up at some point? The ETH BTC chart is, I mean, it's pumping on the hourly, let's say, but it's been in a steady downtrend since August, after having that nice move up over the summer last year. It's down like 30% in half a year. Curious to know what people's thoughts are. And maybe, you can talk about fundamentals, you can talk about technicals. Fundamental wise, I think the ETH Foundation and Vitalik could have done a lot better job, I think, with how they've handled, I don't know, social media, marketing, etc. I'm not sure, it does Vitalik have the same aura now that he had maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm curious to know what people's opinions are. This is an open question. Does
I
anyone
think
have an
Muted
opinion?
again.
I, I think if we look at ETH over the last 3 years, I think there's a case to be super bearish about it, because it hasn't done anything from a price perspective. But then on all the other fronts, it's got the highest TVL, it's got probably the most functional protocols in the industry. I mean, Aave being one of them, Maker being another. These guys are actually doing proper business. I mean, Aave's setting itself up to pretty much be the bank of crypto. And that all runs primarily, yes, they do have a presence on other chains, but their home is on Ethereum. So I think it's what I was saying earlier on, is that I think we need to reach a point in the evolution of this technology where value is going to be priced at some point correctly. And I think when that happens, I think Ethereum is probably the number one choice for that matter. And I'm not coming from an ETH maxi perspective. I kind of gave up on ETH from a price perspective quite a long time ago. So I don't hold ETH at the moment. I think ETH is going lower. I think BTC is going lower. I'll give you my prices later. But I think it's going to happen where there will be a repricing and there will be a recognition for what Ethereum has to offer. I mean, I was doing some research earlier on around the whole RWA market, and that's obviously a really important narrative, but I don't think it's relevant for a narrative that we need to pay attention to now, because unfortunately crypto in its current form and the way that retail approaches crypto at the moment is that there isn't a long-term perspective. Whereas RWAs are a long-term perspective, and the functionality of crypto and tokenizing pretty much everything is a foregone conclusion. There's no ways that's not going to happen. It's fucking happening, guys. There's some big players who have got 10, 20, 15, 35 billion dollars AUM, and they are coming in and they are playing and they are testing the grounds with the Aaves and the Makers and the rest of it. So that shit is going to take hold. That shit is worth being bullish about. And I was reading names earlier on today. I need to go back and read again on institutions that I've never heard of before, but have got serious money behind them. And I think Ethereum is the bedrock for those players, and it will be the bedrock for what I believe to be the true function of the crossover between DeFi and traditional finance.
Interesting. Okay, so that's I mean, yeah, that's an interesting point, I suppose, and maybe one that I hadn't considered, but that's pretty optimistic. I'm glad to hear that because I thought it was going to be all doom and gloom. There was someone else about to jump in there. Was it Osbrah or was it Victor? Victor, was it you?
It wasn't me back then, but I can also add that it's hard for me to say whether or not ETH, for example, will make a new all-time high next cycle, because if you remember I think it was September 2022, we had the merge when ETH moved from proof of work to proof of stake, if I don't mix them up. And that was supposed to be like the best thing, the most important thing for crypto. And then we look at this cycle, the one post-merge, and ETH barely made a new all-time high. If it really was that important, if people really were that bullish on ETH, it should have at least don't do something like BTC, like at least a 2x from the previous cycle, but instead it went like 5% above the previous all-time high. So I'm not quite sure if there will be a big narrative next cycle on ETH to push it to new highs. I hope there will be, because I'd like to see ETH and other big projects succeed, but I'm kind of doubtful from what I've seen this cycle.
Thank you for that, Victor. Yeah, just watching BTC low time frame doing interesting things. Okay, I think we can probably move on from Ethereum unless anyone has any other takes. I want to talk a little bit about the macro now. I'm going to go to Osbrah, although this is again open for the panel. We have equities at highs, crypto is lagging, and this is a question that I asked maybe last week or the week before. Do you think that it's a kind of an indication of long-term weakness in the crypto market, or is it something where crypto is going to eventually play catch up? And in a similar vein, what happens to crypto if equities pull back here, right? There was an argument made last week that crypto moves before equities, and crypto is kind of the canary in the coal mine when it comes to global market weakness. And you're probably better positioned to talk about this than I do. Have you seen kind of, let's say, jobs reports data and unemployment data recently that makes you think that this is the case, or what way are you looking at that situation?
I'm not sure crypto is moving before equities, because even right now we have a correction on equities, especially on On S&P, even though it stays stable, it's still between 6,800 and 7,000, so it's pretty stable. But we had a correction on the Max 7. We talked about it the last time as well. We had Amazon nuking, we had Google as well, because of the disappointment regarding the earnings. Not going to go into the details, but basically capex were going to the moon. So AI is costing a lot of money, and the revenues are not following as much as the capex is increasing, the cost of operations. So investors just punished the stocks tied to the companies that released the earnings. This is why we had a drop, and still S&P is holding quite well, and it's simply because we have a rotation. Unfortunately, the rotation doesn't go from the Max 7 to crypto. It goes from Max 7 to industry stocks related. If you look at if you look one by one, stocks one by one, and not at indices, you will see that some industry tied stocks are pumping. Also, stocks tied to energy as well. They're all pushing. Why? I will stay simple, simply because crypto is the biggest form of a risky investment that you can make, right? After the stock market, it's riskier. And as we discussed the last time together, Kevin Walsh just got nominated as the next Fed chairman, and he didn't speak yet. The only information that we have is that this guy is pro dollar. He's in favor of a strong dollar, and he is against the money printer that the central banks have been doing a lot during the past 10 years, basically since 2008. So even the past 20 years, he is against that. He wants inflation to be low. He wants also the dollar to be strong. And this is why we had a nuke, if you remember, when Trump announced his name. So until he tells us a bit more, the tradition would be to have him speaking in front of the Senate to expose his plan as the next Fed's chairman. And I think the market needs to be reassured about his stance and about what he's going to do as the president of the Federal Reserve. Once it's done, I think we'll have the famous or infamous capital rotation from the stock market to crypto. But for now, I think the market is still cautious and on a defensive stance. And this is why we don't really have the big flow from the stock market to crypto, and this is why crypto has been dumping more than equities.
I like that. I want to get an opinion from Luke on this. Luke, you when we first met, at least, you told me that you had kind of moved away from trading crypto, or at least moving away from exclusively trading crypto to now kind of trading a mix of NQ equities and crypto at the very least. So I'm just curious to know, how has your NQ trading done recently? Have you found that the price action has been much the same to trade? Has it been more difficult to trade? Is it just kind of one of those things where the up only price action or mostly uptrending price action is something you stay away from, or how have you found it?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same for me. And again, it goes back to me being, I'm not too bothered about what's going on the higher time frames. So I'm generally just looking at a single session and looking at where the levels are to trade within that session itself. So whether price is going up or down on the macro, it doesn't make too much of a difference to me. I've actually, although when I first came into Chroma, I was trading NQ much more. I've been enjoying trading crypto a lot more since coming here, just because there's more people looking at it, and I've really got back into crypto being like the main focus for me. I still trade NQ a couple of times a week, just around New York Open. But yeah, for me, it's the same process no matter where price is at. The only thing that I really avoid is when there's like something super impulsive going on. So like when we had the the trade wars and all of that kind of thing, and the big dumps of a few weeks back, like that kind of price action I'll tend to avoid. But when things are ranging, when things are fairly flat, then yeah, it's just the same thing every day, regardless of where price is at, just based off of the probabilities that I have, the stats that I have. Like today mentioned during the trading room, that if we were to get like the price action was pretty decent, we like, yeah, you just have that routine. Price coming all the way back up to initial balance high again here, which is why I was cautious on holding long positions, and I'm still a little bit cautious on holding long positions because I don't think it's unlikely that we're going to see this bounce like sustained for that long today. But yeah, it's just a day-to-day thing, and I haven't really seen much change myself because I'm generally in trades for like 1 to 4 minutes, so it really doesn't make much difference.
Fair. Okay, same question to you, Victor. Is it the same for you, or is the process different?
The biggest difference for me when I'm trading NQ, I'm only trading NQ by the way, is that the movements, like I'm watching much lower time frames. So for example, when on BTC I'm watching M5 and 15, on NQ I'm watching the 30-second and the 1 minute chart. That would be the highest one that I go for on York Open, because the volume is so much higher, and the movements happen so much faster. But something that I noticed recently is that Bitcoin on the M1 moves similar to the way the NQ moves on the M1, in the sense that it is a big impulse, then a lot of barcoding on the M1, then another big impulse. But I think that has to do with the fact that now the order books are thinner on BTC than they were 1 year ago. So that means that big orders have an easier time pushing the price, whereas on NQ it's about the fact that the volume is much bigger. But yeah, because I mostly stay on these low time frames, the concepts are the same for me, so I don't necessarily see any differences because NQ is so much closer to all-time high than BTC is.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Thank you for that. Want to quickly now talk about the Bitcoin miners, and maybe Perdu, this is something you can offer some insight in on, because I know that you mentioned it, maybe not the last call, but the call before that. You said that sell pressure was becoming a factor as price moved down, and this is definitely something that I heard a lot of chatter about in 2022. Not quite as much chatter about it this cycle, probably because we haven't seen the kind of crazy low pico bottom bear market prices that we saw in 2022, at least in terms of drawdown from all-time high. Something that I've mentioned a few times on my channel is that the last few cycles have all bottomed at between like 67, 68% to minus 90%. At the moment, we dipped to about minus 50, but no lower, and we're currently trading about minus 45, something like that. So I'm curious to know, is that something that people should be paying attention to, these minor capitulation levels?
I mean, it's definitely a pretty interesting metric. I know that Michael Saylor's average price at the moment is 75K, if I remember correctly, and the miners that will go cash flow positive is also around 74K. So like if we trade back above 74K, I think we see some sell pressure first for miners that probably think, let me get the fuck out. Let me get the fuck out of here. Well, if we're ranging between 69 and 74 around that level, I think miners will not sell for now. So I think the 74, 75K region, which is also my higher time frame resistance and support level, is going to be a really, really big problem, because we have Michael Saylor price over there. We have miners that will become net positive again. So I think it's definitely a big metric to watch for now. Yeah, and like in previous cycles, we saw big minor capitulation when we traded below their price for several months. So maybe we need a little bit longer before they actually capitulate. But I really want to see the reaction at 74K, which also confirms for me that if we close the monthly below 74K, that we broke structure on the monthly and we could see lower prices. So yeah, it's a lot of confluence over there. So it's definitely a metric I'm watching, especially pinpointing the 74K level.
Nice, thank you for that. One thing I want to point out as well is, like, I think a lot of, particularly a lot of newer traders, when they're kind of assessing these high time frame lines in the sand, as it were, they have a tendency to put, miners or institutions or treasury companies, whatever it is, in the same category as like your average trader, where it's like, oh no, bro, just diamond hand it or just hold that stuff. It's like, no, BTC miners, once price hits their level, they are forced to sell. They become forced sellers. It's not a case of just like diamond handing it, bro, or just hodl, bro. And it's the same with like treasury companies and institutions, right? Once you get the tap on the shoulder from your risk management department or from your compliance department that your risk is going into unacceptable levels, you are forced to sell. You can't convince someone otherwise, because those are hard coded into the rules of the investment rules of the firm that you're working for. So I think something that people should understand about those levels is they're not, the lines in the sand exist for a reason, and once those levels hit, they're effectively forced sellers, rather than it being the pressure is automatic and instant. So yeah, it's something
Yeah,
that
it's
people
not
should
like
be aware of.
retail. Yeah, it's not like retail that you can decide your own risk. Your risk is being managed by monitoring institutions. So yeah, I'm not really aware of what their capitulation price is and where their risk management is going into the capitulation prices. But yeah, we're trading far below their mining prices at the moment. And I think, yeah, how does it work with Sailor? Do you know, Follis? Like, at what prices does he get margin called?
Sailor has already said a number of times recently, because everyone's goofing on him, that BTC can go to like $8,000. He can go to sub 10K, and it can trade there for a long period of time before he needs to realize any of his losses. Which I think I know that's probably a larpy sounding. It's again, so much of what he says is just trying to signal confidence to investors, and trying to portray this sense that he's always in control, etc. And I think that some of that is LARPing for sure, but I think that people are underestimating how in control he is, and how on top of things he is. Like, I'm not a Sailor fanboy by any metric, but guys goofing on him for round tripping, or BTC now coming back to his break even price. It's a point that I've made before. I just feel like they are not looking at the asset in the same way that Sailor is, or with the same time horizons as Sailor does. Again, I think that he's mostly price insensitive. He's not buying the dip, bro. He's not buying because BTC is 45% or 40% from all-time high. All he really cares about is accumulating over a succession of cycles in order to sell or whatever. I mean, you can make arguments about what he's actually trying to do with accumulating that much BTC. I mean, even if he never sells, he can still collateralize that amount and kind of live comfortably for the rest of his life. Go on, Jedi.
Just check the messaging that went through on socials early on today. Like, just pay close attention to the wording. I've pasted it in chat. So he always tells us how much he's acquired and what he's paid, but I think he seldom has posted what his average price is. Does he do that every single time? I don't think he does. He's told us now that his average price is 76,027 per Bitcoin. So he's almost like taunting everyone in exchange to everyone dunking on him. He's like saying, I know this is what I paid. I know I'm underwater. And you know what? I don't actually give a fuck, because I'm going to buy another billion next week. So suck on that. Which I find really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the same guys goofing on him now will be calling him a genius when price goes up. But that again, that's very result dependent, and not necessarily the way you should be assessing these kind of investment decisions, right? You should be looking at the actual process and what he's actually doing, the actions rather than results. Even though those two are quite commingled, and you can't assess one independently of the other. But I digress. I think that it's one of those things that time will either prove him a genius or a complete retard, and there's very little gray in between. It's really black or white. He remains a polarizing figure now. But again, BTC bounces to 80K here or 85K here, and everyone will be singing his praises once again and saying that he's the finest investor of our generation, or has the biggest balls, is the biggest whale, etc., etc. Want to quickly talk for the last kind of 10 minutes. I'm going to pivot here. With a kind of a hard fork into AI, because this is probably something that I'm sure a lot of the audience are interested in. I know it's something that I've been reading about a lot recently. Is this, this Claude bot takeover, Claude computing, setting up a virtual assistant with Claude and managing your workflow, assisting with a number of things. We've seen everything from workflow optimization to bots that are trading on Polymarket. Now, I think that's probably a scam. I'm going to ask Victor about that, get his opinion on that. But I'm just curious to know, what are the team's opinions on this? Is it a bubble? Is it something that is going to fundamentally change the way that we work, the way that we trade, the way that we analyze the markets? Because I know one of my friends, Miles Deutscher, has already said that he almost never analyzes the markets without checking with his AI assistant now, like, what charts should I be looking at? And I think that's a fascinating, it's a fascinating change in terms of taking something that is quite discretionary and offloading it to an AI assistant. So I want to get Victor's opinion first. Victor, we've seen these Claude bots being run and trading on Polymarket. Is this a scam, or what's actually happening?
It is a scam depending on the perspective that you're looking at them. So if you're a complete newbie to what it means to code software, to run AI agents, how to build what you actually want to build on Polymarket, whether it's arbitrage or market making or whatever, if you have no knowledge of that and you see a post on Twitter claiming that you can just feed your request to Claude and Claude will build you a Polymarket bot that's able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, then of course that's a scam. That's never going to happen. But people still believe that because those people on X make it seem so believable that everyone can do it. So then you go and spend money on Claude tokens or Cursor token or whatever token you're using to write code for you. And in the end, you'll do nothing because you don't know actually what you want to build and how to build it. And for example, we have one of our smartest friends, Benny, who has built such bots, but it was not him who built those bots. He only came in with the knowledge of what the bots should actually do. And bear in mind, he is one of the best people that we ever had in the server, so it already requires a lot of financial knowledge. But then he knew that simply running those Claude agents would not build the code that he wants, so he went on and hired one of the best people that he could find with degrees from one of the top universities in the US. And those people were able to then write the code that runs those bots, whether or not they use the AI, that's outside of my knowledge. But even with that, he has to have servers so close to the Polymarket servers that he runs on the smallest latency possible. So there are so many things that you have to do to actually have a bot that makes so much money on Polymarket, that simply going and spending money on Claude tokens to build you the bot that does that, that's literally impossible. And from that perspective, it is a scam. But if you just want to, you see something that you think could be an edge, and then you spend, I don't know, 10, 20 bucks building a bot for yourself, and you make a few $100, maybe a few $1,000 per month, that's completely doable. It's something that I've been working towards and doing it with some degrees of success over the past few weeks and months. So that's doable. But if you think you're going to be able to compete with those bots that you see on X, that's complete bullshit. And that's never going to happen because you don't have what is required to build such things.
Same question to Jedi and Osbrah. Is this something?
One last thing. You
Go ahead.
mentioned Miles Deutscher. He is, if he is indeed your friend, maybe used friend, like just that you know him. He is one of the
Best
most
friends.
stupid people that
Love,
I've seen
love,
on X.
Love.
Yeah, he made a post, and this ties into what we talked about scams regarding AI. He did his complete guide to using AI on Polymarket, and it was the biggest bullshit I've ever seen. So if you ever see him, tell him Victor from Chroma calls him an idiot, because his stuff was like the complete guide to Polymarket, and it's like, do your due diligence, have a daily routine and stuff like that. That it was probably written by an AI. So I believe you when he says that he doesn't do anything with an AI these days, because it looks like he's asking ChatGPT if he should drink water or not. But yeah, that's my rant over.
I have actually hung out with him a couple of times. But yes, I'll be sure the next time I see him immediately I'll say, "Hey, yeah, Victor from my team thinks you're a LARP." I'll lead with that. That'll be a good conversation starter. It'll be a good icebreaker at least. Um, Jedi Osbrah, is this something that we should be paying lots of attention to? Should we be dropping our manual chart reviews and focusing on automating things with AI, or has the importance of kind of the tech of the last few months been overblown? I've seen guys saying that there are a multiplicity of jobs that will not exist in 12 months because of AI. One of those was lawyer, which is obviously close to my heart for all the wrong reasons. I'm curious to know what your take on this is.
Jedi, if you allow, I will speak first because it's going to be short. I don't have a lot of stuff to say because I don't know much about these poly market things. However, it makes me think about the meta that we had on Telegram with the Telegram bots back then, and everyone thought they would be able to snipe the tokens that would do a 200x, and it didn't work out well for these guys. Like it worked maybe for a few guys, like Vic said, and then everyone tried to copy, but they didn't have the skills or the comprehension of what they were doing. So it didn't work at all. And I think it's going to be the same way. Now I think AI replacing financial analysts and stuff. I think that for now it's too early. I've been trying myself to use AI to do some technical analysis, especially to write my articles on every Sunday, and to earn. Sometimes it's just impossible. Sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. And without a human review, I don't think it's qualitative enough to be published in any platform, as long as you want to offer some good quality content. However, that yeah, you talked about the lawyers, and that was also a case for about Capgemini. I think it made a lot of noise recently because customers were, and this is why the stock just nuked, by the way. Customers were asking themselves why would pay thousands for legal advisory if at the end of the day you just offer the new AI solution that will answer instead of these guys that were coming from the best schools in the world, and that they like we were paying hundreds of thousands a year. So now that it doesn't make sense, why would pay Capgemini a lot of money if we know that we're just talking to a robot? So yeah, I know that lawyers got concerned, but I don't think still I don't think that we are to the point that an AI on the laptop will go to the court and defend your case if you need to go there. I don't think it's possible yet, and I think we are far away from that, by the way. So yeah, I think the same with the financial field, the technical analysis, the charts analysis, etc. So yeah, Jedi, the floor is yours. That was my opinion.
Just with regards to Miles, I think Vic was way too nice about Miles. I think Miles is a giant twat and a giant LARP. But moving on, I think it depends on what AI you're using. I think AI has reached a point now where people spoke about AI slop on Twitter. I promise you, there's AI at the moment that actually writes better than people that have been doing it their whole lives. I've seen it. I've been using Claude primarily for research on DeFi stuff. And if there's a logical train of thought around implementation, it is really, really good. And I think it's just getting really better. And I think it's going to reach a point where you're not going to do anything without actually asking for a second opinion to AI. And in many cases, it will be the first and the second opinion that you get. So I think it's just the beginning. I think what we are going to see is essentially a lot of problems that we weren't able to solve being solved by AI. And I think there will be a lot of confusion. I think people will kind of like lose their way and kind of like get confused around which direction to approach, because at the end of the day, the one distinguishing factor between us and AI is that AI doesn't know what empathy is. And I think with empathy comes a whole lot of advantage. And if you don't have empathy, you're going to land up making way too many analytical decisions, which I think won't be positive for where we are going as a species. So I think the long game is that AI is going to change the way that we do things. I think the whole agent meta is here to stay. And I think it all comes down to, it's what Vic was saying, do you actually know how to get this thing to do the things that you need it to do? And I think if you learn those skills and you apply those skills to the AI, I think you are just setting yourself up to be hugely successful. I believe that a single owned billion-dollar company will land up happening probably in the next 24 to 36 months. I have no doubt. It might even happen in the next 6 months where one person sets up a billion-dollar business with his or her agents. So I'm very bullish that meta and very bullish the direction that it's going in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's astounding how quickly that space is evolving. I remember like a month ago, someone talking to me about how prompt engineering was going to be the future, and depending on how good a prompt engineer you were, that was going to dictate how successful you'll be in the AI space. I literally saw a post yesterday. It has 8,000 likes. It has almost 1 million views. It says prompt engineering is officially outdated. So
Yeah.
I feel like that, whether or not that's true, it's very indicative of how quickly this space is evolving, and how fast new tech is coming to the forefront. But we have come to the end of our 1 hour discussion. I want to say a big thank you to our panelists. We had Jedi, Osbrah, Victor. Earlier on, we had Luke and Perdu as well. I want to say big thank you to everyone who gave us an hour of your time. Appreciated as always. And we will be back next week with a brand new roundtable with brand new topics of discussion as always. But until then, boys, just try not to get liquidated, and we will see you here same time next week for another interesting discussion. Appreciate you all. Have a great day. Bye bye.